Hey YouTube, welcome back. Today we'll be speaking about rest periods and more importantly, how long should we be resting in between each set depending on our goal. So actually before we start, there is something that I'd like to touch on and it's fatigue. And the definition of it you'll be seeing up here. Now, when it comes to fatigue, there is two types that we really should be concerned about, and there is muscle fatigue and there is central nervous system fatigue. I will just be uploading a photo here to kind of explain better as a diagram. Now, here on the left side, we've got muscle fatigue, and basically the muscle is working at 80% capacity currently. However, the arrow is showing the signaling. Now, the muscle is already at 80% capacity because you've already, let's say you've done tricep extension for 3 sets and your muscle is kind of exhausted already. On the other side, however, we've got a muscle that hasn't been used in today's workout. However, you've performed, let's say, a squat or a deadlift as a more demanding exercise on the nervous system, and therefore the muscle itself is at full capacity. However, the signaling is not as great. So as we come down, as you can see from the brain, the signaling goes through, and the signaling towards the first part on the left is great. However, as I explained already, because the muscle has been used before, but the fatigue that it induces is predominantly within this muscle, it doesn't really affect the rest of the body. The muscle is not working at full capacity. Therefore, it's more of a muscle fatigue rather than the nervous system. However, on the opposite end, here we're seeing that the muscle hasn't been used. However, we've used quite a lot of demanding, we've not really used quite a lot, but we've done a lot of demanding exercises on the body and predominantly in the nervous system that really fatigued it. Therefore, the signaling towards the muscle, even though it hasn't been used, isn't as great. This may not really make a lot of sense right now currently. However, as we go down further into more details, this will make a bit more sense. And basically, we'll be touching on two different aspects here. One of them is rest periods when it comes to strength gains, and the other one is rest periods when it comes to muscle growth and muscle thickness. And how long should we be resting depending on whatever the goal is. I did a poll yesterday on Instagram and I was asking people about the optimal rest period when it comes to us resting in between each set. And the most popular answer was 60 seconds, which I'm not really surprised with. I think we've seen, every one of us has seen at least somebody in the gym that really pays attention to their phone, they have the timer on and really going around, running around, following the timer. And if they kind of miss it, they really get upset about it. So 60 seconds is not bad. However, is it optimal? We're about to see. And there's one study that I really want to go with at the beginning. And this study came out last year. They were examining the acute effects basically after 12 sets of resistance training. But they had 3 different groups. One group was resting 20 seconds in between each set. The second group was resting 60 and the third one was resting 3 minutes. Now, there wasn't really a significant difference. However, the 20 seconds and the 60-second rest, they had more muscle swelling after the workout. And basically, what this means is they had more pump in comparison to the 3-minute group. Because they have more pump, most people will be going down the road that, you know what, I'm having this great pump, maybe it's the best workout of my life and my muscles are really growing in this moment, which is not entirely true. So if you do really want to go for this crazy pump in the workout, obviously anything less than a minute would be better rather than more rest in between the sets. However, how is this actually going to affect our muscles in the long term? So how is this short minute rest actually having an effect in the long term when it comes to muscle growth? And basically there's this one study that came out about 4 years ago, and they were examining the long-term effects on muscle growth and muscle thickness after either 1 minute rest or 3-minute rest in between each set for 8 weeks. And after those 8 weeks of performing 3 sessions each week, they examined the muscle thickness, and basically the 3-minute group had a significantly more increase, which actually you're going to be seeing up here, significantly more increase in their muscle thickness rather in comparison to the 1-minute group. However, along with that, they also managed to increase their 1RM on the bench press strength with 15%, and the other group only increased 7%. So as we can see, in the long term, actually longer rest can not only grow your muscles more, but it can also contribute to our strength gains better as well. There was also some sort of a meta-analysis that came out, and they were concluding all of the research when it comes to rest periods on muscle growth. And basically they published that there wasn't a single study until this moment that supported more the shorter rests rather than the longer rest when it comes to muscle growth. So in general, if we want to increase our muscle size, I think resting anything between 2 and 5 minutes could be a sufficient amount of time. However, this can be very subjective, and I'll explain why later. Strength, however, is a bit different, and it's very common that a strength workout is predominantly based around compound exercises, and compound exercises are basically exercises that are requiring more than one muscle group to be activated in order to perform the movement. And what this means is basically there's more of fatigue, which is kind of going back to what we explained at the beginning. More importantly, it's not only just one type of fatigue that is occurring, such as either the muscle or the CNS, but very usually it's both of them occurring at the same time. So, because the nervous system is working very hard to be contracting different muscles at the same time at full capacity, this means that it's inducing a lot of central nervous system fatigue. And because usually strength workouts are based around very high intensity and less than 5 reps usually, this means that the muscles themselves are working very hard to contract every possible muscle fiber in order to perform the movement with as much load as possible. Therefore, it's inducing muscle fatigue as well. Considering we have occurred that much fatigue by performing strength-based exercises, this basically suggests that we really need to give it more time when it comes to us resting in between each set in order to allow the body to recover adequately and therefore once again be prepared for the next set. However, there's a lot of people that when it comes to strength, they're resting up to like 10 minutes. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think there is any science research to kind of back it up, but 10 minutes, in my opinion, I don't know how to speak. In my opinion, 10 minutes is basically cool down already. So you've kind of cooled down, and then let's say you're going back to do 1 RM, the body is just not ready to do it. So basically more is better. However, there is a point where more can be too much. And I just really want to put this graph up here, and it's honestly just one study. And this doesn't really mean that this is what it's truth, and this doesn't mean that this is what we should be doing. However, this is just an idea that represents that athletes, trained and untrained people have different peak performances, so to speak, when it comes to rest periods in between each set. And as we can see, athletes are actually benefiting the most when it comes to the longer rest. If you're trained or untrained, everything up to 7 minutes when it comes to strength, in between 3 and 7 minutes is good enough. It's actually optimal. So just to summarize briefly, basically whatever I've cited in this video as scientific research, we could be just using these as guidelines. I don't think we should be referring to these as 100% truth, and they basically are just giving us an idea of what is better and what is not. Now, this once again, as I mentioned, can be very subjective, and it can be very subjective. Why? If I'm a student who can spend 3 hours in the gym, okay, maybe I can allow myself to have 7-minute rest in between each set, and therefore my strength gains are going to be better. However, if I'm a person who really has a lot of responsibilities, I'm very busy at work, I have a family responsibility, my daily schedule is very packed, I don't think I can be allowing myself to spend 3 hours in the gym. Therefore, my rest in between the sets can probably be just only up to 1 minute, and therefore I really need this timer to kind of follow through within the workout, just to make sure that I'm really ready within this 1 hour. Or like in my case, where I can only spend 1 hour with my clients in the gym. So basically, could we potentially afford to spend 7 minutes in between each set as rest? Maybe we could. However, how many sets are we actually going to do within this workout? Probably not sufficient. And basically my point is, it all comes down to the individual, it all comes down to their schedule, it all comes down to their preferences as well, because in my opinion, no matter what, we can probably progress with each one of the rest periods that I mentioned so far. As long as you actually are consistent, there will be progress. Guys, I really hope that you enjoyed this video and it will be useful for you all. If you'd like to access any of the articles that I've cited in this video, they will be down here in the bio. Please, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what has worked for you before, what hasn't. I'm really curious to know, and I'll see you next time.